Alright, so this next video is actually going to be about multiplication properties. Multiplication properties, there's 3 of them. They can also be used in addition, but this time it's a little bit different because we're multiplying instead of adding. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is the easiest one, and it's called the commutative property, and it sounds like it is like it sounds. So I hear the word commute, so that means that I can go back and forth. I can change the order. So let's say that I wanted to take and multiply 2 times 5. And I know that 2 times 5, because I know my multiplication facts, is 10. Well, the commutative property says that I can flip-flop the 2 and the 5 and change the order, and my answer will still remain the same. So let's test that out. So I've got 2 times 5 equals 10, and 5 times 2 equals 10. So if I draw 2 times 5, so that would be 2 groups, 1, 2, with 5 in each group, I should get 10. Well, the commutative property says that I can change those, and so this time it means 5 times 2, which means I'm going to have 5 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and inside that will be 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and that would be 10 if you counted all of those up. So no matter which way we write it, whether it's 2 times 5 or 5 times 2, the answer or the product will remain 10. Alright, so now the next one I want to show you is the associative property. Associative property is a little tricky. It talks about the way we group facts, and it also uses the 3 multiplication factors instead of 2. So let's say I want to multiply 2 times 3 times 6. Okay, so we can group and rearrange just like the commutative property says. We can rearrange these and still come up with the same answer. But I've taught the kids to go ahead and group them with parentheses the easiest way. So right now I'm going to leave the order alone and group 2 times 3 with my parentheses. So orders of operations says to solve anything with parentheses first, and I've taught the kids that. So I'm going to solve 2 times 3 first, and 2 times 3 is 6. Then bring down my times symbol and my 6. And this is where, if I don't know my 6's, I can do a draw picture. So I could do 6 groups with 6 in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. So I know now by looking at my picture that 6 times 6 equals 36. So I now know that 2 times 3 times 6 equals 36. Alright, let's try that with we can also use this with 2 factors, and we use something called a number bond, and the kids know what that is, and they seem to know what that is pretty clearly. So a number bond is where I take a number and I put it and I break it into 2 different parts. So, and the 2 on the bottom are going to be your factors, and the 1 on the top is going to be your number. So let's say that I want to multiply 12 times 2. Well, I know that 12 times 2 equals 24, but let's say I didn't know that. So this is where I would take my harder of the 2 numbers, and that would be the 12, and put it in my top of my number bond. Now I want to know 2 easy numbers that will help me multiply to equal 12. So 2 of the easy ones that I can think of would be Let's use 3 and 4. So now I would take my 12 and I would change that to, in parentheses, 3 times 4, and then bring down my times 2. Well, remember what I said earlier, you can take this and put it in any order and group it any way you want. So let's say that I want to change the order. So I'm going to change this to 3 times 2 times 4. And now this is where I can take and I can group my 3 times 2, or I can group my 2 times 4. I think that I want to group the 3 times 2. I know that 3 times 2 equals 6. And then bring down my 4. So this is where now I can draw my picture if I don't know the answer to that. And I would have 6 groups with 4 in them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I would have 4 in there, and each one. And if I count up all of those dots that I just made, my answer would be 24. I know it looks kind of confusing, but it's pretty easy once you get the hang of it. All right. Now the last one is the most confusing, and it's the hardest ones for any of the children to get, and that's the distributive property. The distributive property takes two numbers that are being multiplied together and breaks one into a number bond and adds them instead of multiplying. So let's say that I want to multiply the number, say I want to multiply the number 6 times 8 and see what that equals. So this is where I would take either one of those, the 6 or the 8, and break them down using a number bond, but don't break both of them down. Remember the number bond from the last problem? And instead of multiplying, we're going to add the two factors that are down at, or add-ins that are going to be down in the bottom. So I like to take the harder of the two numbers, and that's the 8. And the 8 can break up by adding any two numbers several ways, but we want to choose the easiest way. So I'm going to use 2 and 6. Okay. So now I'm going to put it inside parentheses, 2 plus 6. The distributive property says that we're going to distribute or give the 6 now to anything that's in the parentheses. So I would take the 6 and the time symbol, this is my first step, and give it to the 2. Okay, so now I have a new multiplication problem, and it would be 6 times 2. Bring down that plus sign. And then I would take the 6 and the 2 again, and the 6 and the time symbol, and give it to the 6 this time. And now I would have 6 times 6. Alright, so now I would take the 6 times 2 and figure that problem out, and the 6 times 6 and figure that problem out. If you don't know, you can always draw a picture, use repeated addition, draw an array, or you can skip count. But I know that 6 times 2 is 12. Add that, bring down that plus sign. Always, don't forget to bring down that plus sign. And then 6 times 6 is 36. We just did that problem. So the last step is to take the 12 and the 36 and add those together. And when I do that, I have 6 plus 2, that equals 8. And 3 plus 1, that equals 4. I know that's a really lengthy way to figure out what the answer to 6 times 8 is, but this is just a strategy, and you'll have to use this in other grades going forward. But I know that was kind of lengthy.